Hello and welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'm going to be painting this Poppy Meadow, and you can follow along. But first, please consider subscribing to my channel by clicking the little red button below and clicking on the little bell so you can be notified when I have a new video. So get out your paints and your brushes and let's get started. To start with, I'm going to do a really pale wash in cerulean blue, just in a gradation down the page, to give sort of a sky-like background, which requires me to just add more water. I'm going to start by using a nice dark red, a alizarin crimson, and another red that I mixed together, and I want it to be quite intense, so this is what I have. And you can always keep these little scraps so that you can test colors on them. And what we're going to do is just do some splotchy flower shapes. Once this layer is dry, we're going to go back in and just add a little shape to each flower. It's just really simple. I'm using a slightly darker color, which is straight alizarin crimson, with a little bit of purple mixed in some of them, so that gives them a little bit more dimension. And we want it to be quite wet, but not really sloppy wet, because in a moment we're going to add centers, and we want the paint to go into wet so that they spread out as fast as you can. The faster you work, the more free it will be. Picking up some Payne's Gray and dropping it into these as centers, because poppies normally have black centers, just one dot like that. And you can see how they bleed out. While the centers are drying, I'm going to add some other little posies. So I've chosen cerulean blue again. We're just going to do some little wildflowers. Now I'm also going to add some yellow flowers, and this golden yellow, because in meadows you seem to see lots of yellow flowers, and I'm making these just an indiscriminate little bunch, indistinguishable as any particular kind of flower. When I was growing up in the springtime, along the roadsides we found buffalo beans, which we always loved because they smell nice, and you can also pluck the blossom and suck out the nectar. It's just a tiny droplet of sweetness. Needless to say, I grew up in the country, on the prairies. And since these all still are damp, I'm going to go on to some tall stems in lavender blue, not quite purple, stalks with lavender flowers. Not unlike the lavender, the flower, but there are lots of others that have tall stalks of purple flowers, such as delphiniums, which I don't believe grow wild on a meadow. However, it doesn't matter, you could call this your own backyard cottage garden. See how simple these are to make? They're basically just little dots, and you don't want them to be too uniform, because even though flowers often are very uniform, these are watercolor flowers, and we get to decide. Some of my flower centers are still a little bit wet, but that's okay because we're not going to be painting right around them. And what I've done is created a couple of puddles of greens here. There's that one, which is a hooker's green and an olive green. And this one, which is sap green. Now to start with, I'm going to add some stems. here and I'm doing a flower head. Because poppies have these beautiful drooping buds before they open. And while I'm here, I'm going to add a leaf. So this is what our leaves will look like. These poppies have kind of ragged leaves. I decided to use a smaller brush for these stems because it's too easy for it to flatten out and then you get a rather unstem-like feature that you want to get rid of. Now I'm going to paint the stems just more or less straight down. I'm not taking them all the way to the bottom because I'm going to put foliage around here, but I do want to figure out where they're going to go. Also using a small brush, I'm going to add the foliage to some of these little guys. I have no idea what kind of foliage they're likely to have, so I'm just making it up. You can make it as intense as you want in color or as pale as you want. Now with these ones, I'm just going to put a little bit of green down through the stalks so you can see that they're on a stalk, and then take it down to the ground and put a couple of long leaves on them. Trying to place the greenery in the white spaces in the stalk. Now that these bud stems are dry, I'm going back in with my deep red, the deepest red, because they usually have the most intense color before they open right up. And I'm going to start doing the greenery on these little tiny plants with tiny blossoms. We'll just dot some color in between and around. I'm using a small brush, it's a size 2. Now the only other thing we need is yellow centers in our blue flowers. Just a tiny dab. And then we can start putting the leaves on our poppies. So I'm going to go like this and then feather them out. What we want to do with the leaves is just fill in spaces. Now that everything is almost completely dry, I'm going to add some grasses. And to do that, I take a small brush, and this is so easy. You just flick it along the bottom there. Fill in the spaces. Use some different colors, different tones. So I've got a few pots of greens mixed up. You can see the difference in these two colors, for example. We're just going to make a grassy foreground. You don't want it too thin, otherwise you can see right through it. But hold your brush lightly. And by using a fine brush, you can get a nice fine line. We're also camouflaging the stems of these blue flowers, which seem to be floating in the air, so just kind of covering those up. And you can make this grassy layer as thick as you want to. I'm not going to make mine too thick. But what I am going to do is add a little bit of indigo blue to some green, which makes nice deep shadows. To give it some contrast. And maybe even a little bit of purple, because purple makes great shadows. Now I want to put some splatters on it, so I'm going to just go ahead and add those around the flying elsewhere. I'm pointing it downward because I don't want it all over the sky. to be fairly liquid. There. And I'm going to do the very same with green along the bottom. And we're done. Thank you for watching my video. I hope you really enjoyed it, and I hope you've painted the Poppy Meadow. You can find more free watercolor tutorials at my website at summerbaystudio.com. I think you'll also enjoy these videos, and I'll see you next time.